Okay, so I wanted to make like a quick video. This is gonna be like a very mini vlog. You've seen how I spent my morning, or I guess you saw me make my bed. But mostly I wanted this to be like a discussion about kind of unemployment, feelings and stuff, part 2. I guess that's kind of like the theme of my week. I'm like editing the full unemployment vlog now, or like, I don't know, I call it my fun employment vlog. I'm editing it now, so I feel like I'm just thinking about it more. Also, I'm actively living it, so I'm thinking about it more. It could be the theme for all videos going forward, but I feel like it's not going to. Anyway, time will tell. But before I get into that, I should introduce myself. My name's Mackenzie. This is my channel, Think Too Much. Thanks so much for tuning in. I like to make little videos like this, just kind of like discussing and reflecting on life in my late 20s as a woman living in New York City. And I also make like kind of fuller scale vlogs, either of like travels or just like day-to-day life. I think I've been like kind of trying to just like take advantage of the unemployment time a little bit, because I mean, especially because like it's a more privileged version than I've experienced before, and definitely like a more privileged version than like maybe the average, in that, you know, it was kind of like a choice on my part, and we've got kind of like the safety net, and like I've got like a husband, and we've got like another kind of income to operate off of, which, yeah, pretty lucky. But I'm like, okay, well, I might as well kind of use this time to like take advantage of like what the city has to offer, and just take advantage of like free time during working hours, which in New York is actually like a pretty precious resource, I would say. Anyway, all that is to say that I did kind of like my normal like job stuff this morning. I'm in a pretty good spot with like the video editing stuff, so I think what I'm gonna spend my afternoon doing is going to the MoMA. So I'm pretty excited. I feel like that one in particular gets super crowded on weekends, so I think it'll be good to hit it up on like a Thursday afternoon. I think it hopefully won't be too crazy. I hope it's open. I think it is. I'll be sure of that before I head there. But I think it's kind of an important distraction because I'm maybe hearing back from like a really exciting opportunity later today or like tomorrow, so I just kind of want, you know, take my mind off of it for a little bit by doing this. So I think I'll take you along with me to that. But like I said, this is gonna be like kind of a short and sweet like mini vlog, hardly a vlog. And like I've already taken you kind of through like some of my routine. I thought I'd also kind of talk about, maybe with like a little bit more clarity and coherence now that I'm like a few weeks into it, what I think some of the kind of like emotional challenges and stuff have been for me. And I guess like, again, prefacing all of this with the fact that like this is kind of a privileged version of being unemployed, and that it was a choice, and like there's a safety net, and like finances are like fine, you know, which like of course that's like a huge kind of mental burden to overcome. I've definitely had like versions of unemployment that were closer to that experience, and it's kind of like a whole different ballgame. But for me, I think the biggest challenge has probably been uncertainty more generally. Like I think it manifests in like different ways, but I think that one of the harder aspects, especially considering the finance component is like mostly fine, is just kind of the uncertainty. It's like, how long is this gonna last? There's like definitely some kind of vague sense that it's like wrong to be kind of unemployed, you know? And like that makes sense. Like I don't want to be unemployed forever, but there's definitely something kind of like, I mean, I don't know. Anyone watching this will understand, because anyone watching this is like also like a capitalist system. If you're like not retired and you're not like, if you're like unemployed in a way that is not like kind of like socially acceptable, there's like something about it that feels a little bit wrong. And I think that kind of makes the uncertainty component, like in terms of like, I don't know when I'm going to get a job, I don't know when I'm going to be employed again, just like a little bit trickier. And I think it makes it kind of harder to like show up to conversations of like, okay, well, should I kind of settle for this other thing just for the sake of like being employed? Or, you know, do I want to kind of take advantage of the moment and like really be thoughtful and mindful about my next step? And I definitely lean towards the latter, but I think the uncertainty and like the feeling of like, oh, is this wrong, is kind of making that a little bit trickier to navigate. And I also feel like it's a little bit inevitable that like that is probably going to influence like where I land. And that was just kind of like gonna be part of the deal, but it's not, I don't know. I don't necessarily think I need to treat this next step like it's like the most important decision I make. Like, you know, it's like in whatever you do, like one, I kind of don't know what I don't know. So if I kind of take an opportunity that I'm like, well, I've never really considered that industry and considered like that version of like a profession or whatever, there could be kind of like learnings that are valuable, even if it wasn't necessarily like a path I expected for myself, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think uncertainty is tricky in like that regard. I think it's also tricky just kind of like I said, like this afternoon I'm potentially hearing back about an opportunity I'm really excited about, but I've been kind of operating like all week with kind of the uncertainty of like, oh, did that work out? Did it not work out? Like, I don't know. And kind of having to kind of chug along. Well, I guess not having to, but choosing to chug along as if like it isn't going to work out, just to kind of like be safe, make sure I'm like still kind of putting myself out there for new and more opportunities, but also kind of like having part of my excitement and like enthusiasm just like camped in this corner waiting to hear back from this company. So that's definitely tricky, and I'm kind of interested to see where I land on the other side of it, regardless of what the decision is. Like, I wonder if I'll almost be more comfortable just kind of knowing what it is, you know? Because it's like, that's the difference between, okay, well, I might have like a few more weeks to like really focus on my YouTube channel, and maybe I want to like pour more energy into that. Or, okay, like I have a few more weeks where it's like going to be like full-time job hunting, and like, what does it look like to seek out like new things that I'm really excited about? And I mean, there's also kind of like, and that's another kind of piece where the uncertainty comes in, that it's like, I don't really know what the next thing I'm going to be really excited about is. Like, there have definitely been opportunities that like initially I applied for it and I was like, this seems like it could be good, but I wasn't necessarily like, oh my God, this seems like so perfect and like such really my next spot. And then you talk to people and you're like, oh wow, I could really see myself here. And it's like kind of the uncertainty of like, what's the next version of that? Like, what's that going to look like next for me if this one doesn't work out? And just kind of understanding that like reading a job description and like hitting apply with like an application, I might have like somewhat of a good feeling, but I'm not really going to know until I start having conversations, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's been funky because it's like being in a position where like this can be the norm for like the foreseeable future. That's kind of what was like planned for, right? But also just kind of this like living kind of with this constant like, but it could be as soon as next week or next month or like in 2 months that I have a job. And that means that like how I plan for my YouTube channel, how I plan for the job application thing is just kind of constantly in flux. And that's like mostly fine, but I feel like it just kind of poses interesting challenges, if that makes sense. Like, it's different things are brought up by that, and that's kind of been what I've been working through. Like, I was talking to my coach about it the other day, and she was like, yeah, I think you should just expect this period to be like a lot. You're probably going to need to like coach yourself more, just because like uncertainty and also like things are changing more. You know, when you're kind of in a situation for a while, whether it's like a workplace, like a place you live, like a relationship, like, you know, you definitely go through like a period of kind of like transition and adaptation when you're first kind of acclimating to the new job, the new home, the new relationship, whatever. And I feel like you just kind of like build up defenses, and or like, at least I like kind of learn to coach myself about like the various insecurities that new thing brings up, and to like cope with them and like develop a better relationship with like my situatedness in that situation. That was incredibly vague, but hopefully it made sense. And, you know, what's kind of different about this period is that like there are certain constants, and I'm definitely like providing myself with those constants, like getting up at like a pretty normal time every day, like having certain kind of parts of my routine, like either making the bed, or, you know, it's like I start with job stuff and then I end the day with video editing stuff. It's like just creating that structure are the kind of constants I can lean on. But there are certain variables, and I think there are more variables in this kind of period and in this kind of situation than there would be if I was employed, you know? Like, I mean, I feel like just obviously it's like, okay, like there's this new opportunity I'm really excited about and I'm like really gunning for and like keeping my fingers crossed about. But then there's these other things I need to tend to, or like I got a rejection, like what does that feel like? I'm having to deal with like all the shit that rejection brings up, and like that can be difficult, and like different rejections can hurt in different ways and bring up different insecurities. So I feel like, yeah, when my coach said that, where it's like just kind of expect to like be managing your mind more, it really resonated, and I think that it's something I'm going to have to do. But I'm game to, you know? I think I've kind of matured a lot in the last 10 years in particular, in terms of like kind of confidence and like self-assuredness. And I think that as a result, I'm just kind of better able to meet this moment than I would have been like even 5 years ago. I think I just have more confidence, have more self-assurance, have like more tools and like methods and like self-understanding to kind of meet my insecurities when they like are dredged up with, you know, the kind of almost like counter thoughts and like counter arguments that are necessary to kind of maintain a level of like comfort or just like even neutrality. So yeah, that's been a little bit of my experience so far. It's funny, sometimes I feel like the YouTube thing, it almost like, I feel like what I talk about on YouTube, like it almost feels like it like needs to be negative, or just like very naturally kind of leans towards the more negative. I think because like I feel like if I'm like bragging on the internet, I feel like a dick. But obviously, like, you know, this experience is like, there are very cool elements of this experience, and I just know myself well enough, and I know for a fact whenever I'm employed next, I'm going to look back on this period like very fondly, of just like having this little chance to spend like more time than I can certainly hope to as an employed person on my YouTube channel. It's been a lot of fun, and just like really like pouring a lot of energy and time and commitment into that like hobby slash like passion has been really cool. And then like I think even components of just like job apps, maybe there's like a pride I feel in that. Like that's something that I just used to think of as like really dreary and like lame, and now I feel like I have such a system for it that it's like, no, it's like fine. I can just like put on a podcast, like it's like, you know, a few tweaks and updates to cover letters and resumes here and there, but it's just not that bad, and I think I do it pretty well. So I think yeah, there's kind of a lot to enjoy in this period. I think the rest, like most of all, and like I said, taking advantage of, you know, workday afternoons in New York City where I can go to otherwise very popular Manhattan Museum and hopefully not deal with too much crowding. Honestly, famous last words. We'll see how that goes for me. But that is actually a very nice transition. I think I'm going to get ready, get a jacket on, and head out to the MoMA with that. Here's my outfit for the day. We got stripes with stripes. I thought that was fun. This kind of goes with this. This is metallic to go with the shoes. I wanted to feel like put together museum girl. Hopefully I'm not too hot. It's like boiling in this apartment, but it's supposedly like 40 degrees outside, so I'm hoping this is fine, but we'll see. I like it. I think it's cute. I'm really struggling to capture it on camera, but trust me or don't, I think it's cute.